My name is Pratiksha Manglekar, and today we are starting with a new topic, that is Japan and Brazil through a traveler's eye. So, what do we get to know from the title? The title tells us that the topic is about traveling, right? And traveling to the two places, two countries, Japan and Brazil, right? So, what does traveling do? I'm sure you all must have traveled in the past. And what does it do? You get to explore a lot of places, you get to explore a lot of traditions and different cultures, right? You also get to know about people's food and their habits, right? So basically traveling opens you to a lot of different ideas. Note on travel writing. So this is there in your text. Let us start reading and let us try to understand what's written. Travel writing is about writing one's experiences of traveling and visiting alien places. Alien means new places, unknown places. As a genre of writing, it is as old as 2nd century when travelers to Greece recorded their experiences in the form of a diary. With the invention of new techniques of navigation and sea voyages during the 9th and 10th centuries, travel writing became popular as more number of people began to explore new places on the globe. They are telling us how it actually began. It began during the times of, during 2nd century and during 9th and 10th century when people were going on voyages. They maintained a notebook, right? They maintained their diary in which they wrote about their experiences. Soon such trips started getting royal patronage and support. Royal patronage as in the king or the queen, gave permission for this and also gave a lot of, money for traveling. New adventures and voyages were even commissioned. Thus, travel writing ceased to be just a description of a new place, born out of curiosity and gained political overtones. Now, even after much of the earth has been explored and almost every piece on this earth has been written about, its popularity has not waned, as can be seen by the immense viewership it has in the modern media like TV and internet. So it began during the time of voyages, and then it just went on, what to say, increasing. Its popularity went on increasing. It also got royal patronage, as in these trips were commissioned. The king and the queen gave money for this. King and the queen, as in their respective king and the queen, right? And also it got political overtones because now the kings and queens or the kingdoms were competing against each other, seeing who has traveled more or who has explored the globe more. And now, even though the globe has been completely explored, there's nothing much left to explore. Still the popularity hasn't decreased, right? People are still exploring places. You see all these shows on TVs, right? And also on the internet which speak about traveling, right? So that is traveling. And I'm sure you all also have a small idea about traveling from your experiences, right? So what does traveling do? Like I already mentioned, it exposes us to different ideas. We follow a certain religion or we follow certain beliefs, but then that's not the same with everyone around the place. I'm sure even if you travel a little bit, like something as small as a distance as small as 30 kilometers, I'm sure you'll see a very different, you'll see a lot of cultural difference there. Travel writing has come under serious scholarly study in the past 50 years and has become a part of cultural studies program in many universities. Travel writing is no longer viewed as a product of some innocent curiosity or an attempt to understand an alien culture objectively. Rather, these narratives are telling comments on how a culture gets represented by another and in the process subtly uphold some cultural values as somehow superior and universal than others. So, what has happened currently is that travel writing has come under a very serious study, as in it is studied under which particular subject, that is cultural studies. Cultural studies is simple, as as the title itself suggests. Cultural studies means the detailed study or very scientific study of a particular culture. Say for example, the culture in Belgium, we can sit and study that in detail, or say the Indian culture in general. So writers, or say authors, they sit and dig deep into this as to why this particular festival is celebrated. For example, one particular festival called the Ganesh Chaturthi. Why is it celebrated? How did it begin? What is the history behind it? So all this is studied in detail in cultural studies, and hence travel writing has come under a very serious scholarly study, right? So the students of humanities actually study cultural studies, and these travel writing or these notes that people have made become the texts for them to study, right? So no longer it is some naive or some innocent way of exploring the globe and just writing it for fun. Now it is actually a scholarly idea. Also, they are telling what happens sometimes is that there is some kind of partiality that happens. Why? What happens is, say for example, I am from this particular place called Belgaum, and I go to another place, say Delhi, and what I constantly keep doing is I keep saying how these people are not like Belgamites, or say how these people from Delhi are how their culture is not as good as mine. So there is some kind of comparison that happens, and in a way I am upholding my own cultural habits or my own traditions higher compared to any new one. So this also happens, right, which is a very wrong thing, right? Okay. Also, I have just put these random pictures together for you all to understand what can be studied under travel writing. So you also get to know about people's food, their habits, right? You also their religious habits, their ethnicity, about their their costumes, right? For example, a lady wearing a sari, it's a very Indian thing, but whereas if a foreigner comes here, someone from the west comes here, it's a very new idea to them, correct? I'm sure they all know by now. Anyway, there are a lot of movies also that are made on travel writing. This particular quote from a very popular movie has explored traveling, so I'm sure you can tell me which movie this is. So let us come to the author. Okay, he is George Mikes. So he was born on 15 February 1912 and he died on 30th August 1987. He's a Hungarian born British journalist, means he was born in Hungary, okay, and then he went to Britain. He was an artist, author, publisher, illustrator, and a journalist. He has been in different roles. He has performed many different roles. Also, he was a student of law at Budapest University. So this is a little bit about George Mikes. I'm sure you can read more about him on the internet. So this is the map of Europe. I'm just trying to show you where he's from. So he was born in Hungary. I told you about it. He's Hungarian born, and then he lived in Britain, that is in United Kingdom, UK. Okay, so this one is the flag of Hungary, and the other one is the flag of United Kingdom. The one at the top is the flag of United Kingdom, and the one below is the Hungarian flag. Okay, so these are some of his famous works, and if you go through them in detail, okay, even if you just read the titles, you'll get to know most of them are about traveling. Okay, he has mentioned a lot of different countries, and their what is that called, their traditions are written about. So George Mikes is essentially a person who travels a lot and writes a lot about these. So these are nothing but they are known as travel logs. Okay, when people go around and come and they write about it, they write about their experiences. That is a travel log, right? So what we'll do now is there are a few slides where you see people greeting one another. I'll tell you why that is important to us also. So this is a very different handshake that people have. That's in Botswana. Okay, Botswana is in Africa, and on top is the map and below is the flag of Botswana. So you see how they say hello to one another. Okay, also what I want you all to do is think about your own culture and how you say hello to one another when you meet. Either you meet new people or you meet known people. That's not a concern, but you obviously greet one another, right? So, and this is how people greet one another in North African countries, a few Arab countries that are there in northern Africa. So this is how they greet one another. They try to, touch their nose and their forehead to each other's, and that's how they say hello. Now you might think these are very strange. They sound strange to us because they are new to us. Okay, these people have been following it from centuries. Another tribe, that's a Hongi tribe in New Zealand. Okay, New Zealand is near Australia. It's mentioned, it's given in the map, and this is the New Zealand flag. That they also have a very similar greeting style, such as the Arabs. They touch their forehead and their nose to each other, and they say hello to one another. Okay, a very strange one, that is the Tibetan hello, is what they do is they show their tongue. Okay, they remove their tongue and they show it to one another, and that's how they say hello to each other, right? And this is the Tibetan flag below, and on top you see where Tibet is. It's right above India, right? Now China says that it is an integral part of China. We are not yet sure, the issue hasn't been resolved yet. Okay, this is the Chinese way of saying hello. They say ni hao. Okay, and it just means hello, probably. This is the Chinese flag again. Okay, this is a very different one, where people raise their eyebrows. Okay, when you raise your eyebrows, you say hello. And this is Micronesia. So Micronesia is these are a group of islands, okay, that is right above. It's mentioned on the map, okay, right above Australia. You see these group of islands, and this is the Micronesia flag. Okay, the Hada community. So you can see their traditional costume. So this is a Mongolian community. So Mongolia is right there above China. Okay, I have marked it in the map, and this is the Mongolian flag. So what they do is, the Hada community, they present a particular cloth. Okay, a particular piece of cloth to say hello to one another. That's how they greet each other according to their tradition. And finally, coming to the Indian tradition, where people, how do they say hello to one another? They say namaste. Okay, now this is a very, in a very funny way, this lady is saying namaste, but we just say namaste to each other, right? And we have different variations of namaste throughout India, right? So even though popularly people say namaste, it's not the same in every state or every part of the country, right? So these are the different communities. I'm sorry I haven't mentioned all of them because there are too many of them. So these are the popular ones, and there are different variations as per, so for example, Punjabis, they say Sat Sri Akal, or the Malayali people, that's Keralites, they say Namaskaram. Okay, the Gujaratis, they say Kemcho, right? Bengalis, they say Namaskar, and Kannadigas, we say Namaskara, and Maharashtrians, they say Namaskar, and Tamilians, they say Vanakkam. So there are different variations of namaste, of saying hello to each other in India itself, right? So this is the flag of Japan, and today we are going to talk about the Japanese manners, so which is the first part of the lesson. I'll start reading. Japanese manners. A quarter of an hour in Japan will convince you that you are among exquisitely well-mannered people. People who live on a hopelessly overcrowded island have to respect one another's privacy, or rather would have to if they had any privacy. But they don't. So courtesy has a double function. It is courtesy and it is substitute privacy. A quarter of an hour means 1/4 of 60 minutes, 1/4 of an hour, that is 15 minutes. So in 15 minutes, okay, if you spend 15 minutes in Japan, you will realize that you are, among very, very well-mannered people. The Japanese people are very well-mannered, he says, the author, George Mikes. And these people are living on a hopelessly overcrowded island. So we all know that the Japanese, have a very high population. And it's an island, so the space is very less for all these people. But so what happens because of this? You don't get privacy. Okay, privacy means the personal space. Okay, you want some distance from other people. You want to be in your own space. You don't get that in Japan. So what do they have instead? They have courtesy. Okay, courtesies, and they say courtesy is substitute privacy. Means what? people are very courteous to one another. Courtesy means people are very well mannered. Okay, they do not interfere in others' business. Okay, that is courtesy. They are very, very well mannered. Right? So in 15 minutes, you'll realize these people are very well mannered. Let's continue. Take, for example, the little red telephones in the streets, shops, halls of hotels. The instrument is situated on a table or on a counter. They have no space to spare for booths. You conduct your most confidential business transactions, your intimate love quarrels in public, yet in perfect privacy. Anybody, any passerby could listen in, but nobody does. A man's telephone receiver is his castle. Okay, you will understand what is written in the slides further. First of all, he's talking about how overcrowded the country is. Okay, how overcrowded the place is. 12.65 crores is the population. As per the recent data, 12.65. It's a huge number for a very small island. It's hopelessly overcrowded. Also, why is this author saying that? Because this author is, we have heard about it, he's from Britain. Okay, or he was he was born in Hungary and then he has spent his life in Britain. And Britain is not as populated as Japan, so that is why he finds it very strange. But say in one of us Indians goes to reside in Japan, we don't see a huge difference, because even India is hugely populated, right? So he's talking about privacy, how people do not get any privacy because of the population. But people are so well mannered, so courteous in Japan, that they make sure others get the privacy, right? Also, he gave us an example of privacy with the little red telephone booth. So they do not have space for a telephone booth. This is a telephone booth, and absolutely they have no space for it, right? Because why is this booth there? Why is it a small room? So that whatever you're speaking, no one else can hear and no one else should listen to it. But what happens in Japan? Where are the phones kept? They're kept outside and open. They're kept on platforms like this, or they are kept on tables. It's out there on counters of different shops. They're just kept, and people have to talk directly like this when there are other people around. There is no way you can go and talk elsewhere. Now obviously I don't know how many people use these regular telephones anymore because of the usage of cell phones. But understand that this topic or this travelogue has been written quite some time ago, and that is why he has mentioned a telephone. So yeah, but the Japanese are they're so nice, they're so courteous, that they make sure they do not listen in. So you can have your love quarrels, you can have your business transactions, any possible conversation you can have with absolute privacy. No one will hear in. Will that happen in India? Okay, you think about it. Will that happen in India? Will people give you privacy to speak? So what is a phone? A telephone is, a man's telephone is his own castle. Why castle? Because castle is like a luxurious place where you can have your own space and privacy and do whatever you like, right? So it's like your own castle. You can do whatever you like with absolute privacy without anyone disturbing you. Let's continue reading. You will, of course, immediately notice their mania for bowing. Everybody keeps bowing to everybody else, with the ceremonious solemnity of a courtier, yet with a great deal of natural and inimitable grace. Bowing is neither less nor more silly than shaking hands or kissing the cheek, but it is quainter, more formal, more oriental. It is also infectious. After a few hours, you start bowing yourself. But you bow too deeply or not deeply enough. You bow to the wrong man at the wrong time. You do not clasp your hands in front of you, which is bad. Or you do, which is worse. You'll discover that the Japanese have a complicated hierarchy in bowing. Who bows to whom, how deeply, and for how long. Okay, so you realize you must already know this about Japan, right? Their way of greeting. So that is why we spoke about different greeting styles. And how do the Japanese greet? they bow to one another very deeply, right? But then he's telling it's a very, very complicated procedure. First of all, it is, a very ceremonious thing. What is ceremonious? Sorry, ceremonious meaning something which is, for example, we are having a ceremony, like, a passing out parade ceremony, which is very grand, and once in a year type of event. So that is how they bow, as if, it's a very, very precious thing, and it's a very, like there's a king in front of you, like that they show respect, right? And solemnity simply means a very serious and a very dignified, in a very serious and dignified manner. Of solemnity of a courtier. Who is a courtier? Courtier is someone who is there in the court, means in the kingdom, who is the king's advisor. Okay, like that. So how should a king's advisor be? Absolutely, he should always be bowing to the king, and he should say that the king is the best, and also give him the best advice, things like that. Okay. And there's another difficult word, that is quainter. Quainter simply means something that is unusual. Okay, there is quainter, more formal, right? So quainter simply means something which is unique, which is not very, commonly seen. Quainter, it's very, very formal. More oriental. Oriental means, who is the Orient? Orient is the one who is in the eastern countries. So people who are in the eastern countries, they are known as the oriental people. So this word has come about during the colonial times. Okay, all these the colonizers, okay, the colonizers used to call the eastern people as oriental people. So it's a very oriental thing, means it's a very eastern thing, it's a very rare thing. Okay, also it is very infectious. What does infectious mean? Infectious means that it spreads. Means if you see people doing it, if you see people bowing to one another, you also feel like bowing to the other people, right? But then there are many, many rules. Okay, it's a very complicated procedure. Okay, you should bow in a particular angle, at a particular angle, and if you bow to the wrong person, it could be very wrong. Or if you clasp your hands in front of you, that also would be very, very wrong. There are many rules to it. Okay, so this is about bowing, right? And you bow, if you don't bow deeply enough, also it could be a mistake, right? So this is something I found on the internet. A slight bow is a 15-degree bow, and a salute is like 30 degrees, you bow your body, and respectful bow, it is 45 degrees. I'm not sure how correct this information is, but then these are different styles of bowing for different kinds of people. It depends on their social hierarchy, it depends on their gender, it depends on a lot of things. Okay, so if you go to Japan, you will learn this. Okay, so let's continue. We spoke about for how long to bow. That was the last sentence. Okay, for how long you bow. One of the American states had an early traffic law which laid down that if two cars met at an intersection, neither was to move before the other had gone. Similarly, if two Japanese bow, neither has to straighten up before the other stands erect in front of him. A little complicated to us, they manage it without difficulty, and even the smallest difference in rank, standing, age, social position will be subtly reflected in that split second. One man's bow is shorter than the others. Right, so he has given an example of one of the American states had this particular traffic rule. So you can see two cars over here. One is A and one is B. So they have met at an intersection, right? As you can see, there are four roads intersecting there. Okay, or rather, two roads. And what happens there is, if both have come, now this B needs to go straight, right? But A also needs to go downwards, right? B needs to go left. Now, since they have met at an intersection, they both will wait for the other person to pass. Okay, that is the rule that they have. Now that doesn't mean they are not stupid enough to wait all day long. Obviously, what it means is, to avoid accidents, you need to wait and make sure the other person goes first. That's the rule. So the Japanese also have a very similar rule. What is it? That if you bow, you need to wait till the other person straightens up, or the other person makes his body erect, and only then you can do it. you also can become straight. Until then, you keep bowing. That's the kind of respect you need to give. So that's the kind of rule he has compared. He has made an analogy over here. So even in America, they had this particular rule. He says traffic rule, and even if it, there's a difference of 1 millisecond, you will still understand. They will understand it, it seems. And the smallest difference, he says, in rank, standing, age, social position are reflected in this, that split second of it. So that's the kind of rule. I hope you understand what he means. You need to bow down, and you need to keep bowing down until the other person becomes erect. And you may think that this is so complicated, but then they manage it without any difficulty because they have been doing it since forever, right? In many cases, there are clear-cut differences and in position and no difficulties. The basic rules inside the family: the wife bows to her husband, the child bows to his father, younger brothers to elder brothers, the sister bows to all brothers of whatever age. I saw babies carried in Japanese style on their mothers' backs in clever little saddles, and whenever the mother bowed, the baby bowed too, somewhat condescendingly from his majestic height. You see the rules of a family, you may say they are kind of unfair also at some point, because the wife is supposed to bow to the husband. So you see a family over here, the wife bows to the husband, the brother bows to the children, bow to their father, the son bows to the father, and the younger brothers will bow to the elder brothers, but the sisters have to bow to all the brothers irrespective of their age, just because she's a girl. I told you, right? So this is also based on not just age but also on gender, right? If you so probably it's a very patriarchal society, right, where the women have to bow to their brothers, or the men in their family, right? And now he's talking about saddle. So what happens is, a mother is carrying her child on her on her back. Okay, so you see this picture on the on the right hand side. What happens is, instead of man, you can imagine a woman. So she is carrying a baby on her back, and a saddle is this. On a horseback there is a seat, right? That's known as a saddle. So clever little saddles means they have modified that saddle to fit on the back, and the child is sitting there on the mother's back. And when the mother is bowing, even the child is bowing, right? Because the mother is, if the her, if she bends, obviously the child who's sitting on her will also end up bending down or bowing. And condescendingly means I am superior, thinking that I am somewhat superior to others, showing that superiority. The child is also bowing, he says, right? Okay, with this